Okay, we have turn one of Marius versus Titus. The first phase of any round is to roll initiative. And initiative is rolled on a single d6 with modifiers. Neither of these gladiators have any modifiers, so it's going to be a straight roll. So Marius scores a 5 and Titus scores a 3. Meaning that Marius takes the initiative and he takes a counter to represent that. The next phase is rolling activation dice. So we will roll Marius's first. Here we go. And we will quickly allocate them to his sheet. So after you've rolled your action dice, you quickly sort them out and place them in this section where the action dice go. These action dice in this area mean that they haven't been used yet. Okay, and we'll do the same for Titus over here. Okay, and once again, we'll quickly arrange them. And so it's easier to see what each gladiator has. Okay. So back to Marius. He has initiative. After rolling activation, after rolling action dice, it is now the gladiator activation phase, meaning the gladiator who has initiative gets to spend his dice doing actions, which is the core of the game. So, quick look here, we see that Marius has a maneuver, he has a defense, a respite, a standard attack, a special attack, and a laurel. So he's actually rolled 1 of 6. One of each of the 6 symbols, I should say. Okay, so the first thing that we will do for Marius is expend a maneuver dice. Maneuver dice obviously allow you to move or maneuver, and he will take the first tentative step forward. Okay, he is now in contact with his opponent, which will allow him to attack. So he can either have here the choice of spending a standard attack dice or a special attack dice. Now we will just do a standard attack to start off the festivities, and a standard attack is going to be a straight roll of 2d6 plus any modifiers. Now we see that Marius has no attack modifiers, so it's basically going to be a roll of 2d6. Now if Marius had another standard attack dice, he can freely add them for a +1 bonus. A laurel may be added after the roll if he wishes. Okay, so here we go. We're going to roll the attack. It's a 7. It's a fairly average attempt. Now, even though this is Marius's turn, we now head over to Titus. Now Titus must attempt to defend. So our normal defense is rolling 2d6 with any defense bonuses here. Now this parry bonus only comes into play if Titus is able to spend a defense dice or a parry token, which are basically the same thing. Otherwise, he will not be receiving anything to defense, any modifier. Now, every extra defense die or parry token spent will gain him a further +1 over his parry bonus. Now that parry bonus is from his shield, his Pamula. Okay, so we will spend a defense dice in order to receive his Pamula, his parry bonus of +2, meaning we're going to roll these 2d6 and add +2, remembering that the score to beat is 7. Okay, 6 and 3 plus 2 is 11. So Titus easily parries the blow, likely on his shield. After every attack, regardless of it being successful or not, the opponent suffers withdrawal, meaning that he must retreat into either of the 3 rearmost hexes. And this is Titus's choice at this time. So Titus is just going to go straight back. So thus ends that attack roll. It is still Marius's turn. Now, Marius has potentially more attacks, but obviously he is separated by a hex. He's not adjacent, so unable to attack unless he can close this space. Now he has a few options, even though he is no longer any maneuver dice. He has a few options. Firstly, the Laurel is capable of becoming any dice, hence he can turn it into a maneuver. He also has a special attack die that will allow him to do a special attack called a rush attack. Now this rush attack will allow him to close the space and attack, but at a penalty of a fatigue. For purposes of this demo, we will do that. So he spends his special attack, allowing him to rush forward and attack his opponent. Now, this will cost him a fatigue, so we'll mark one off. And he gets to do his attack. So again, it's going to be 2d6, and there are no bonuses that Marius has, and the rush attack adds nothing. So it's a straight roll. 10 and 1, sorry, is 5. It's a fairly ordinary attempt. Now, Titus has a small dilemma. He can always roll his 2d6 in defense. Does he need to add defense dice to pick up his parry bonus, or a parry token to pick up his parry bonus, or does he attempt to beat the 5 without it? So I think Titus will live on the ragged edge and roll his 2d6 without adding any defense dice. Okay, it pays off, and he easily deflects that blow again. Once again, he must retreat into either of his 3 rearmost hexes, and Titus will choose to slip away in this direction. Okay, it's still Marius' turn. So again, Marius has potentially an attack dice here, because the Laurel can become any dice, but he's separated by a hex. So what he will choose to do is, firstly, he will spend a respite dice. Now, respite allows you to take a breath, removing fatigue, or play up to the crowd to try to get their approval. Now he will play it safe. He hasn't done much, and he will spend his respite to remove that fatigue. Just quickly on fatigue, the Murmillo fatigues slightly easier than the Thrax. So he certainly has to manage that fatigue, and it could become a problem for him if he lets it get out of hand. Now, Marius has still quite a few dice. He has a defense dice and a laurel left. He is going to sit on them and turn over to Titus. Okay, so it's Titus's turn. It is quite a few options. First thing is to close on his opponent. He spends a maneuver dice. We'll get him to move here. Now quickly with facing doesn't matter too much in Blood on the Sands. Whenever gladiators move, they can freely face each other, which is what they must do. So Titus is in position to attack. Now quickly looking at his dice, he has the option of 2 attacks. He may be able to maneuver closer to his opponent after one of the attacks. So Titus will probably do this. So this is a standard attack with no bells or whistles. But Titus is a left-handed gladiator, meaning he will receive +1 on the attack roll. And that's marked down here by +1 from trait. Okay, so Titus is adding +1 every time he rolls his attack dice. And here he goes. 2 and 2, +1 is 5. That's a fairly miserable and ordinary roll. He could add his laurel for +1, making it 6, but I don't think he'll bother. Now Marius must respond, and he has some dice to burn, knowing that Titus has a potential attack coming, but again only needing to beat a 5. I believe Marius would choose not to spend one of his defense dice to activate his parry bonus, which is 3, which is quite substantial because of his large scutum shield. So he'll be rolling a straight roll. Well, that didn't quite work out as planned. So Titus's score of 5, beating Marius's half-assed roll of 4. The moral of the story being here, use your defense dice when you have them. So this is a hit. So Titus has struck the Murmillo. The first thing you do when an attack is successful is roll to find out where the wound or where the attack strikes. We do this by rolling 2d6. A roll of 7 is the lead arm. So he has hit the sword arm of Marius. Now, a quick look on Marius's gladiator playsheet will see that the lead arm has a -2 next to it, meaning that it is armored in some respect. So when Titus rolls on the wound table, he will be subtracting 2 from this roll. Now some gladiators have modifiers to the wound table, like Marius does, +1 and +1 there, so Marius is quite dangerous if he strikes, but Titus does not. So it's going to be 2d6 minus 2, taking it from 7 to 2. Sorry, from 7 to 5. And this is simply a fatigue point. So the blow did little to Marius, apart from taking his breath. Marius, of course, must withdraw, and Marius will, choosing his one of his 3 rear, will slide there. Okay, back to Titus. Titus has an attack, a laurel, and a defense dice. Now, one of Titus's traits is aggressive. They convert 1 defense dice to an attack dice each turn. So what we're going to get Titus to do is spend his laurel, turning it into a maneuver dice. This will allow him to close. He will continue up in this vein. Then he will make a standard attack, but he will also convert his defense dice into an attack dice. Now, for every attack dice that you add to an attack roll, you get to add a +1. So at this moment, Titus is +1 for being left-handed, +1 for spending an attack dice, meaning he has a +2. And we'll roll the dice and add +2. Wow. Some great rolls today. So 3 + 2 is 5. Not a very high score to beat, but we've seen this movie before. So Marius this time will spend his defense dice. He would lose it at the end of the round if he was unable to convert it into one of these parry tokens, but his parry tokens are full, so he will spend it, and this will bring in his +3 parry bonus to this die roll. He only needs a 5. Much better roll. 8 + 3 is 11. He easily defends the blow, but of course suffers push or withdrawal. He will continue to slide this way. Now, it is the end of the round, as Titus has no more dice. Now, we do see here that Marius still has a laurel. Now, instead of losing that laurel, he may at any time convert that into what's called a fervor. Now, a fervor is really just a banked 6, meaning he can use this fervor token as a laurel die at any time. The only problem is that a tier 0 gladiator may only possess 1 fervor token. So there may be a time when he must use it or lose it. Anyway, he converts that laurel into a fervor. Thus ends the first turn, but before the end of the turn we must do the fatigue and bleeding phase. Now, before the end of every turn, each gladiator will gain an automatic fatigue as the fight takes their breath. At this stage you would also check for bleed tokens, which neither gladiator has any, and also wounds. Again, neither gladiator has any wounds. Okay, we would then clear any action dice that were left over. There are none, and thus ends the first turn. Okay, on to turn 2. First step in the phase is of course to roll initiative, so we'll start with Marius on 1 dice. He rolls a 1. and Titus a 3. So Titus will be going first. So the next phase is to roll their action dice. We'll roll Titus's, and we'll roll Marius's dice. So back to Titus. For the gladiator activation, Titus gets to go first. Okay, so the first thing we may do is get Titus to close with Marius. We can start looking at the hex spaces available for Marius to retreat into. As the gladiators get closer to the wall, it becomes problematic for a gladiator who gets his back against one. So it's always good to try to obviously force your opponent into the wall. Regardless, he'll spend one maneuver and move to close with his opponent, and now to perform an attack. Well, he's got the possibility of using the laurel, but he's the special attack dice there. So I think what we'll do is use his special attack dice to perform one of the Thrax's unique attacks, which is a flank attack. So this attack will cost Titus a fatigue point, which at this time is not a problem. But what this attack does, it allows the Thrax to move a hex to the left and gain a +2 bonus to attack. This simulating the gladiator trying to slide around Marius' shield and defenses. Okay, so we will roll that. Now remembering that we'll put the fatigue first so that we don't forget about it. I just have to turn on my red pen, but of course fatigue has to be marked in red, and wounds. So at the cost of a fatigue, Titus is going to gain his +1 for being a left-hander, +2 for the flank attack maneuver. So here we go. Alright, continuing the spate of bad dice roll. So 4 + 3 is 7. It is a fairly average attempt. Alright, Marius must respond. Learning a lesson from last time, he must, or will, spend his defense dice to gain his +3 parry bonus from the Scutum. So he'll roll 2 dice, and he can add +3. Alright, so he scores an initial 5 + 3 is 8. It is enough to defend. Marius, of course, will still suffer withdrawal. Now he's going to give himself as much perceived space to retreat to, so he will move there. Alright, let's see what else Titus has. Now Titus does not have attack dice apart from his laurel, but he still appears to have a attack dice in him. So he will move next to his opponent there. And he will now utilize this dice. Well, actually, he does have also have an attack dice if he wishes to convert his defense dice into an attack dice. Now he can have a quick look over here at Marius, what Marius has to bring. And Marius has the potential of 2 attacks here, but this sneaky fervor token may also be a attack dice as well. So whether or not Titus would want to use his defense dice now to turn it into attack is a decision that he would have to make. We will use the laurel regardless and turn that into a 5, meaning it'll be turned into a special attack, and he will attempt what's called a circling attack. Now, a circling attack means that the defending gladiator does not suffer withdrawal after the attack, and the attacking gladiator moves 1 hex around. So I'll show you what that means after. So Titus is going to roll his dice. He has a +1 in attack as usual. Alright, so this is 7. +1 is 8. Marius must respond. Now, remembering that we do not have a defense dice any longer, we do have 2 laurels capable of becoming defense dice, but of course we have the 3 parry tokens. So Marius will spend one of those tokens to allow him to utilize his +3 Scudem bonus. So the score is 8 to beat, rolling +3. So he scores an 8, +3 is 11. He defends. Now, remembering that Titus attempted a circling attack, this will allow Titus to maneuver around his opponent and Marius to remain in the hex, not suffering withdrawal. What it basically means that Titus could spin the fight if it was more crucial against the wall, and he could attack again, and that's actually what he will do. He will turn his defense dice into an attack die and use that to have another attack at the Murmillo. This one will be just with a +1, and this is a 7, +1 is an 8. A little bit better die rolling now. So this is starting to press Marius, press his defenses. He again, he's got a lot of options, but still he's going to have to do something with them. He will spend a fervor. A fervor is basically a laurel, and he will turn that fervor into a 2, allowing him to get his parry bonus of 3. So die roll +3, beating an 8. So 8 +3 is 11. Once again, Marius defends. This time, of course, he does get pushed back. Now, a quick count says he's fairly open, but this is the best way to probably move, having most space behind him. Now, interestingly, Titus has a maneuver dice left. He doesn't want to move into his opponent. That would be silly. It would allow Marius a free attack, but he could use that maneuver dice to put some space between him and his opponent. Because having a look over here, Marius is short on maneuver dice, to say the least. Now, as long as Titus had attempted to attack or move closer to his opponent during the turn, there are no repercussions to moving backwards. If he had neither attacked nor at least approached his opponent, then he would incur a disfavor token for moving away from his opponent. But that didn't happen. He'd already attacked quite a few times in the turn, so the crowd are appeased by that. Okay, over to Marius. Now Marius is in a real pickle. He has 2 hexes to close, but there are a few options still. Firstly, what he's going to do is spend a respite in an attempt to stay on top of his fatigue, because what he'll need to do now is spend a few dice getting there, and he's going to pick up a fatigue in doing so. So the first thing he's going to do is spend 2 dice in exchange for a maneuver dice. So you can always do this, a gladiator without a maneuver dice. They always spend 2 to make 1 maneuver. And Marius does that so he can move 1 hex. Still not in line with his opponent. He's going to either make that into a maneuver and attack, or he could do the rush attack, which I think that's what he's going to do. So he spends his special attack, does a rush attack. Now the rush attack comes at the cost of a fatigue, so the one that he got rid of returns, and it comes of course with an attack at the end. So this is a straight die roll with no bonuses. Okay, finally a decent roll. Now I think Marius is going to throw his lot in here, spending that last laurel, because there's not a huge amount he can do with it, to turn that 11 into a 12. Okay, so Titus over here, he has 2 parry tokens left. He's likely going to have to spend at least one of them. So he spends his parry to gain his +2. It's a die roll +2 now, meaning he needs a 10 to equal Marius's attack and avoid it. So I believe he's desperately will throw in his last parry token. So this is a roll +2. Oh, you wouldn't read about it. So 11 +2 is 13. He deftly defends from the attack, and Titus is going to retreat there. Okay, activation phase is over. It's now down to fatigue and bleeding. So both gladiators receive fatigue. You can see they're almost on par. Again, the Thrax fatigues a little less than the Murmillo. Okay, end of the turn, clear any unwanted or unused action dice. There are none. And that's it. Turn 3. Begin by rolling action dice. So we'll roll Marius's first. He rolls a 6. And Titus a 5. Forgot to move that I think last turn, but there you go. Marius has the initiative. Alright, we will roll Marius's action dice. Do the same for Titus. Okay, back to Marius. What is Marius going to do? Alright. Now, first things first, Marius has 2 defense dice. He may always spend a defense dice, turn it into a parry token. So this is basically banking a defense dice. No, he didn't have to do that right now, but sometimes it's smart in Blood on the Sands to bank or use these dice early in the round, because sometimes something could happen that could prevent you from using those dice or doing that later on. Okay, so having done that, he will now move, trying to get a bit of pressure on this rear half here of the Thrax. He has a special attack here, or a laurel, to turn that into something. He's going to use his special attack dice. And what he is going to do is a Mamillo's special attack, which is a shield strike. Now this will gain him a +2. It's basically the Mamillo's using that big shield, thrusting it out to hit the Thrax while he attempts to gut him with his sword. But it will cost him a defense dice. So either a defense dice or a parry token, but he has a defense dice there. He spends it, gaining his +2 to this attack. So let's do that now. Oh, okay. It's deemed that a 9. I thought it was a 12 for a moment, but 9 + 2 is 11. This is a good one. Looks like the Thrax may not have seen that coming. Although he has defense dice to counter. So he will spend 1 to gain his parry bonus of +2. But in saying that, there is the potential for another attack. So to spend his second one, he has a laurel there too, of course, but to spend his second one may be problematic. So I think he will risk it this time. He needs an 11. 5 + 2 is 7. +2 from his parry bonus is 9. So Marius, after some attempts, has finally scored a hit. Now we need to roll firstly to see where the Thrax was struck. 7. Now a 7 is the location that is most commonly struck, and that is the lead arm. So we'll have a look on Titus's rear lead arm, and you'll see that he has a -2. So the next roll, the wound roll, will suffer a -2, but Marius is a Momillo, of course, so he has brute, +1 to wound table rolls. He's also strong, another +1 to the wound table roll. So that's a +2. It nullifies the armor of -2, meaning a straight roll on this table, the wound table. Alright, it is a another poor roll. something become a bit used to here. And I've lost my red pen again. So that's going to turn into a fatigue only. Not the desired result Marius was after, but nevertheless, it was a hit. Now 3, 3, and 3. It doesn't really matter where Titus goes. He will withdraw to there. Okay, so Marius is still on the hunt. He has a move dice, which he'll utilize. His Laurel, he will turn into a special attack. And I believe he will do what's called... Well, no, I think he'll do a driven attack. So the driven attack will gain him a +1. If successful, it'll also allow him to push Titus into the hex of his choice. It's not going to make much difference here, but it's certainly putting the pressure on the Thrax. So this will be a die roll with a +1. Okay, so 6 + 1 is 7. Fairly average roll, but it's up to Titus whether or not to take the risk, keep his defense dice so he can store it as a parry token, or use it now. Let's see if Titus can pull this off without spending his defense dice. So a straight roll needing a 7. Okay. He should have took Marius's advice and always spend your defense dice. But he doesn't, and that's going to result in a hit. So once again, where does it land? It lands on the 4. Now the 4 is Titus's lead leg. So his lead leg is actually heavily armored, so Thrax have both their legs grieved. Okay, so this is going to be a -3 to this roll, but a +2 because of Marius's traits. So it's a -1 to this roll. Let's go. A bit better, an 8. -1 is a 7, and that equates to a flesh wound. So this is the first wound of the match, and it is on Titus's lead leg. Okay, now whenever you deliver a wound to an opponent, you score a favor token as the crowd reacts. Now Titus must suffer withdrawal. He's got a little bit more space this way, so he chooses to go there. Okay, over to Titus now. He needs to respond to that mess. The first thing he's going to do is spend a respite in an attempt to keep his fatigue down. Now, just as a note, you can't spend a respite when you're adjacent to an opponent. So again, good opportunity to do it as soon as you can, if that's what you are going to do. Alright, now Titus hasn't got a great deal to work with. He will immediately turn his defense dice into a parry token, so effectively banking it. He will then move. He's going to move here. But we'll turn the gladiators to face each other. He's going to spend the laurel. Well, no, that would be silly. he would spend his special attack dice to do a Thrax's special attack of a hook around. So hook around denies his opponent a shield parry bonus, meaning that Marius may not use his parry token or defense dice to activate their shield parry bonus. So this comes from the Thrax's Sigga, the curved sword that was designed to strike behind their opponent's shields. So he will roll with his normal +1, and he scores 6 + 1 is 7. So Marius may not add his +3, but like any normal defense roll, he may add a parry token or a defense dice for a +1. But I'm going to elect not to do that. He's going to, I'm probably going to regret this, but he's going to do a straight roll. So he needs well, no, I'm going to spend, I've changed my mind, he's going to spend for a +1 because he, Titus rolled an 8 and Marius actually needs a 9, which is a pretty tall call, and I'll tell you why he needs a 9 and not just an 8 in a minute. Okay, it wasn't going to matter anyway. He rolls a 6. So if Titus score of 8, usually the defender just has to equal it, but the Thrax's dominant trait, attack rolls greater than or equal to the defense roll, are successful. So the Thraxes are a bit fancier on attack. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Poor old Marius is hit again. Let's determine where he struck. He struck in the 9, in the head. So the around the shield blow from Titus strikes the Murmillo in the head. Luckily for the Murmillo, he is heavily armored there, so it's going to be -3 to this wound roll. Here we go, and Titus does not have any bonuses to this. It's a very good roll. It's a 10. A 10 would have been a deep wound, but 10 -3 makes 7, so that is a flesh wound. So Marius has been struck in the head. You can see on the head section here that there's only 2 wounds, but for now that's fine. Titus will score his favour, and Marius will suffer withdrawal. He will move back this way. Alright, still Titus's turn. Now, checking the fatigue. Yes, I think Titus is going to push his luck here, turning his last laurel dice into a special attack dice, and he's going to do the rush attack. It will gain him a fatigue, but it will allow him to rush forward and attack. This will be a straight attack with +1. 8, 9. Okay, that's quite a decent attempt. Marius will have to use his parry, and he will add his +3. So 10 +3 is 13. Marius deftly catches that on his shield and forced to withdraw again. And so comes to the end of the round. Last thing to do is the fatigue and bleeding. So Marius scores another fatigue, as does Titus. They are both 2 away from becoming fatigued. Both of them have a single wound, so there's no problems with their wounds as of yet. And this ends the third turn. Turn 4. So things are starting to heat up. Both gladiators wounded, both with a substantial amount of fatigue. So roll the dice for initiative. Marius scores a 1. Titus a 6. We'll move that this time. So over to Titus. We're going to roll his action dice. Right. Very interesting. And let's see how Marius fares. Okay, we're over to Titus. So very interesting dilemma here. So well, first things first, he's going to spend 3 of these respite dice. Came at a good time, really. It's going to give him a second wind to remove 3 fatigue in turn. Now, he could have spent them all to basically reduce his fatigue to 0, but he needs to consider what else he's going to do in the turn, which would have been not much at all. So without a maneuver dice, he can't close with his opponent. He doesn't have a special attack dice to do a rush attack. So he is in jeopardy of losing his favor token for not appeasing the crowd of either attacking or moving forward. So he will do that by spending 2 dice to basically make 1 a maneuver, allowing him to move up on his opponent and make an attack. This is purely to keep the crowd happy. So this is going to be a roll with a +1. 6 + 1 is 7. Marius over here, he will respond by spending his defense dice, giving him a +3. He should be able to defend from this. Okay, let's work this out. 7 roll. Titus's roll 6 + 1 is 7. Marius scores a 5 + 3 is 8. He does manage just to defend and must withdraw. Titus's short turn is over, and it's over to Marius. Now, Marius is in pretty much the same predicament, but Marius will spend his 3 respite. He will remove those 3, but he has the luxury of a special attack dice, which he will do to do a rush attack, meaning he'll gain 1 of those fatigues straight back, but he is able to move in and attack his opponent. Now he has an attack dice left. He'll spend that to gain a +1 to this roll. So this is a straight roll +1. It's not very good. It's a 6. And Titus will risk this roll without spending his last parry token. And it was a good call because he defended from it for free, and he can withdraw. Okay, so that's a very short round. Of course, into the fatigue and bleeding. Both gladiators gain a fatigue back. The wounds, as of yet, haven't affected them. And that's the end of turn 4.